Welcome to Sister Talk Real Talk, a show where real women discuss real issues. My name is Monique, and I have the honor and the pleasure of being your host every week. On this show, I provide women with information, insights, and perspectives that I hope will enlighten, challenge, and encourage you to live your best life and to walk in your purpose. Stay tuned, it's going to be a great show. Hello, and welcome to Sister Talk Real Talk. Again, my name is Monique, and I am so glad that you have taken time out of your busy day to join us and to join me today for a podcast that I am calling Let's Talk Friends. I promise that this is going to be a very interesting podcast. So, you know, in the dynamics and in the context of relationships, there has been a topic that has come up in my own relationships and my girlfriends, in I've heard men talk about it, I've heard women talk about it, and that's the topic of opposite sex friends. When you're in a committed, loving relationship, should you have opposite sex friends? And I'm really glad to let you know today that I have a special guest here that is going to give me some insight from a male perspective. Now, for the sake of anonymity and for the sake of him keeping his man card, let's say, I'm not going to actually say his name, but he's promised to provide some insight, some information that we as ladies typically do not get. We get, you know, we have our own perspectives. We sit down over cups of coffee, wine, ice cream, whatever it may be, and we have conversations and we try to figure out what's going on with men. And instead of us trying to do that, because honestly, women, we don't think like them. Even, the most type A driven of us, there's some things and insights we just don't have because we're not men. We're not privy to the male conversations. We're not privy to how they're taught as they're growing up, by what they see, by what other men teach them, by what other young men teach them, and by their experiences. So, without further ado, I would like to welcome my guest to the show. Hello.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Well, I wanted to say thank you for joining the show. I know it's a little bit uncomfortable. It's kind of like one of those, if you think of one of those episodes like on the news where someone is reporting, what are they, whistleblowing or something like that, and they're sitting in the shadows. You can see a shadow of them and their voice is turned. Maybe I should have used one of those, voice changers for your voice. But I appreciate you taking the time to have the conversation. And I know, ladies, the name of my show is Sister Talk Real Talk. And I promise to keep it real. We said, real women, real issues, real talk. Well, this is real talk today in another context. And since I heard feedback from all of you that you enjoyed the dialogue and conversation that Colin and I had about his book, Is This Your Man? I thought it'd be great to have another conversation, but from a different vantage point, from a different angle, with a man regarding the dynamics and the intricacies of being in a committed relationship, but opposite sex friends. So let me just kind of set up a scenario for my guest and let him talk about it. So, have you ever been, let's say, a man and woman are together, they're in a committed relationship, they're in an exclusive relationship, and what if the female has guy friends, male friends that are very close to them? Or what if the man has female friends that are very close to them? Have you ever been in a situation where you have been in a committed relationship, or or do you know of them? I'm sure you do, where there's been a problem or issue with the opposite sex friends. If so, what is that? What does that look? What has that looked like?
Well, basically, if we're going to start with me being a man and being in a committed relationship with a female, a woman, who she had friends that I particularly did not feel comfortable with. But the nature of the relationship will dictate whether or not you are on that level. So if we're in a committed monogamous level or standpoint and I meet one of her friends, the first question that comes to a man's mind is, well, did you sleep with this guy? Because that's an automatic dismissal. Oh, well, he's got to go.
Okay. Okay, so let's talk about that for a minute. So you're telling me that they're kind of sets of criteria and checklists, and I'll say that we as women have the same thing. I think we tend to be a little bit more lenient at times with this than men are. I think you tend to be a little bit more black and white, which I believe is the right way to go. So,
Wait. What do you mean by you tend to be more lenient?
well, I think as women, sometimes when a guy says to us, "Oh, baby, you know I love you," and yeah, she and I we were together. We're a long time ago. That was like 20 years ago when she and I were together, and we haven't slept together since, and we've been great friends. And baby, I love you. I've known women that say, well, okay, they're uncomfortable with it, but they accept it. But something on their inside's like, something's not right. So I'll get back to that in a little bit, but there's a checklist. Talk to me about the checklist. One is, and then let's go through them. Number one is, did you sleep with them? And I think that's a checklist for both sides, right?
Yes. Well, being intimate with that friend, whether you're looking at it from a male or female perspective, is definitely the first or the top of the list. And then next is, how close of a friend were you? Now, this does not necessarily mean being intimate, but like as far as like, does this guy know you well enough? Could he be a friend who have had intentions of trying to date your woman, and you know he's like that guy. He's like the break glass in case of emergency guy, the one you cry on the shoulder when you have issues because he's such a good friend, but he really wants to date you, but he doesn't have the courage to approach you. Could he be that kind of guy? And most men can normally sniff out the guy that's been trapped in the friend zone, the break glass into emergency guy. And that's a guy we definitely want to eliminate. We as a man, I'm going to eliminate all types of competition, threats, whether foreign or domestic. We're going to eliminate all that. So if you sleeping buddy, real close friend who's really trying to get close to the woman but just doesn't know how to approach her, that's a no-no.
Okay.
The needy guy, the guy that's always needing your woman to do something before you come into the picture and while you're there, while you're present with her. No man wants his woman to be running after her male friend, being like a mom to him or a supplier of his needs on a friendship level. It's like, wait a moment, you don't cater to this guy, y'all friends, but what we have is more than that friendship. So that's definitely like a deal breaker there.
Okay.
Then there's the guy that he takes advantage of the friendship. Okay, so he's always borrowing money, not paying back. He figured, oh well, she's my female friend. I can borrow money for her, and she don't really need it. So that's we as a man, you have to protect your woman from certain threats. That's another threat.
Okay. So let's talk about, are there any others? So I want to go back to these a little bit.
I had one on the tip of my mind, but I can't remember this. The other guy. It's one more and it's really important too. Give me just a moment.
Okay. While you're thinking about that, I'm just going to recap what you said so far. Did you have sex with them? Number one. That's the question. Number two is how close are you? Is this person stuck in the friend zone? Then there's the needy guy who just is emotionally needy and wanting your attention all the time. And then there's the guy that takes advantage. It looks like you remembered your fifth one. What's the fifth one?
And the fifth one is the guy who doesn't respect a woman's relationship.
What do you mean by that? How does that exemplify? How does that show?
Now this is going to apply on the other perspective too. It's that person that does not respect you being in a relationship with someone else. They're like, I don't care, whatever. I've been their friend before you. I'll be their friend after you.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So that's that one. And that guy is like, hey, look, we're going to be friends to the end.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Maybe he might have had the intention to want to get at you. Maybe he didn't. But he's the guy that doesn't respect. He doesn't respect the boundaries of friendship because he's been there when you needed to cry on his shoulder. And he's seen you through past relationships. And if he's not blood, then he's definitely going to be mud. That's how we call that.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to flip the script on you a little bit. Okay, so I've asked you from a man's perspective what you look at. And I would say our list for women are the same. I don't know that we're as concrete. And when I say that we tend to be more lenient, it's a whole other thing, but I've talked about it and I'll continue to talk about it. But the things we allowed to kind of slide and let by when we know our gut, our intuition, our insight, just plain old common sense sometimes is telling us that things aren't okay, but the man are saying that things are okay, which is a segue into my next kind of point of dialogue. You gave the list of 5. Did you sleep with the person? Are they in the friend zone? Are they emotionally needy? Do they take advantage of you? And do they disrespect the relationship? Are there no boundaries, kind of thing, right? Do they not honor
Well,
your relationship with the person that you're in a committed relationship with?
yes.
Okay. So let me ask you this. As a man, have you been in a relationship, a committed monogamous relationship with a woman, and you've had a female friend that was your friend beforehand?
Yes. Every guy has that one female friend that's like, it's like a buddy. It's a dude with, a dude with breasts, basically. You can say she's like a homie. She's like one of the guys, but she's just a female.
Okay.
So, and she's real cool. She hangs out. It's like she hangs with the whole squad. It's
Okay.
you and your 2 boys, and it's her, but she's not considered a female. She weighs in on the female perspective in guy conversation. She's trusted. She's in the inner circle. She's part of the squad. She just
Okay.
happened to be a female. And yes, that has happened to me in my life.
And has that ever caused issues for you?
Yes, it has, because even though she was the 5th one, the disrespectful of the relationship, because her mindset was, "Hi, Mrs. New Girl, you ain't gonna be here long. I've been here from day one. I'm gonna be here till
Day none.
day none, and hey, you have to respect me because I'm his friend. So I ain't going nowhere." And that caused an issue, because if you're in a relationship, now, like I said earlier, it depends on the nature of your relationship. If you and from a man's perspective, if you and your woman, if you guys are strong in your relationship, as far as like, okay, I normally say every relationship is like a negotiation.
Right. They are.
So
You have a contract in place, whether it's spoken or unspoken. You have terms, right, for your relationship, which is a future conversation we're going to have about
Right.
terms. But
basically, you negotiate monogamy, friends on both sexes. So this is one topic which was a sore point. It was like, wait a moment, this could be a potential deal breaker. What are you willing to sacrifice for your lover? If you and your girl are tight, if you're ironclad, then no one can come in between you. That includes that female friend that I had, who was, before I even met my girlfriend, she was part of the squad. So and
Okay.
she was like,
so what did your girlfriend object to about it? Now you're saying that you're recognizing that this woman was disrespectful to you and your girlfriend as well, because she's I've been here since day one, day none kind of thing. When you say that you and your girlfriend, if you guys are ironclad, are you saying that even if you have a disrespectful friend, that shouldn't come between the two of you? Or are you saying that when you're ironclad, then as soon as a friend shows that disrespect or is in that zone, then that friend can no longer be a friend?
well, it goes back to the nature of the relationship. The nature of my relationship at that time was that my girlfriend, I accepted her as my better half. This is the woman who I eventually will marry and spend the rest of my life with. So what am I willing to sacrifice for her? Oh, nothing, because nobody's going to get in between that. My so-called friend, I did not know that she was displaying the disrespectful tendencies, because as a man, you can't see the underlying nature of a woman through communication, but another woman can recognize that.
Right.
So it was brought to my attention that, listen, although you guys may have been friends for a long time, this is the form of disrespect that's been shown. So with that being said, it was a choice between my good friend who was being disrespectful to my woman or my woman leaving me because my friend was being disrespectful. So I had to make a choice which was easily made at the time.
So, but let me ask you this. If your friend, that's in quotes right now, is being disrespectful to your woman, isn't she in turn, by being disrespectful to your woman, disrespecting you?
Exactly. Due to the nature of my relationship with my woman.
Right. So here's a thing, a couple of things about that. A true friend, someone that doesn't have any kind of emotional, I'm going to jump into this just for a second, that doesn't have any kind of emotional attachment as far as a love relationship, intimate relationship with you, but is a close friend, but there's not this level of intimacy. And I don't just mean sexual intimacy. You can have emotional, you can have intellectual intimacy with people, and there can be a bond there that can interfere at times with romantic love, long-term relationships. But my thing is that your friend who loves you should have your best interests at heart and should want the best for you. And if you're in a loving relationship with someone and you've conveyed to this friend how important this person is, if that person disrespects your friend, then it makes me question, how much of a friend is that person in the first place?
Well, see, that's the thing is that I believe that the friend was jealous of the fact of me being in a relationship. I mean, this is this took me. This was a lesson that I had to learn. I had to learn to be a grown up and make a grown up decision in my life. Most men are not mature enough because most men, when they get into a relationship with a woman, they become surface deep to everything else except their woman. When they get with their woman, anything that matters pertaining to her, that gets emotionally deep. She sinks below the armor. But everything else is just at the top. It's just at the surface. That's as deep as it gets. So understanding the nature of what this woman was doing, the form of disrespect, that was something that it took me a minute to understand. Because I couldn't understand why couldn't we all just be friends. But we couldn't because my better half, which was the woman I'm in a relationship with, was being disrespected, which in turn was disrespecting me.
So is it possible that this woman violated 2 of your 5? Is it possible that not only was she disrespectful, day 1 to day 9, is it possible that she was stuck in the friend zone and you didn't know she was in the friend zone, but she had an intimate attachment to you? And what I mean by that is, particularly for women, you don't have to have, but it goes both ways. You don't have to have sex with someone in order for an intimate relationship and an intimate bond to be there. Women bond emotionally first. Men bond physically. And they bond emotionally as well, but the physical is the primary. For women, we can have an emotional relationship. You've heard about the emotional affairs that oftentimes that is in reference to women because the heart goes first and then the body follows for women. It's kind of a reverse thing for men. The body goes first and then sometimes the heart follows. So is it possible that this friend was stuck in the friend zone, someone that wanted more from you, maybe not necessarily physically? And I think this is what men need to understand is a woman may not want you or be sexually attracted to you, but she may have an emotional attachment where she wants to be number one in that area. She may not be trying to be number one, quote, in your heart as far as she sees it, but I think the way that you described when we were talking about the show a little bit and we were discussing it was that this friend was kind of like your intellectual go-to person, right? You guys had, deep intellectual conversations, correct?
Well, she was part of the squad.
Right. But
So-
you had one-on-one conversations.
Well, yeah, it's like I never said we had intellectual conversations. She's part of the squad. So like, let's say I had a friend named Tommy and a friend named Max and a female friend named Sandra. When I needed to speak to one of my friends, if I couldn't reach Max, I would call Sandra. If I couldn't reach Sandra, I would call Tommy. It was like, it didn't matter who I reached, but I had close conversations, emotional conversations as a single person with either one of these three individuals. It didn't matter what their sex was, the fact that there was a level of trust there
Got it.
because they were seen as friends.
Okay.
Now, what makes it harder to deal with as a man, most men will have a connect, to that female friend, not to form some type of jealousy bond with their girlfriends, but the fact that to cut off a Sandra, we don't see it as a threat to the relationship. We see it as, this is my friend that I have to no longer be friends with.
Right.
That's what most men have the issue with, is that this is a friend, whether female or not. Sex shouldn't matter.
So how do we as women help men understand that there's something else going on? And let me pause. I'm going to pause here and I'm going to talk to women for a second. Women, if you are, I have male friends as well. I'm in a relationship and I have male friends as well. Let me explain something to you. If you have a male friend, you've been around before the girlfriend, the wife, whatever, or you happen to become friends somehow and you're friends of the couple, whatever the case may be, your number one job, if you care about your friend, if you want the most, the best for your friend, and you're after the best interest and well-being, your number one job as that guy's friend is to make sure that that woman and that wife, the woman, the girlfriend, whomever it is comfortable with you and that you do not disrespect her. Do you agree, disagree with that?
Yeah, that's correct. If this friend is genuine, then she's gonna become our friend.
Right.
Like,
and you're gonna make an effort, a genuine effort, to get to know that woman that's in his life. This man is saying that this person's important. This person is someone that you said, it's a committed, monogamous, serious relationship. This person is an important person in this man's life and heart. And so our job at that point is to ensure that we aren't causing any trouble for our friend. Because if you love your friend, if this person is your friend, you love them, you care about them, you care about their well-being, the last thing we want to do is be a point of contention for that friend. Now, that should be our perspective. If we have a perspective of been here since day one, I'll be here till day none, or I don't care about her and all of those other things, I hate to say it, but it's real talk, then we're being selfish. We're being inconsiderate. We're not being mature, and we're not being respectful of that friend. And we're really not being a friend at that point. We're actually stepping into the grounds of being something that is disadvantageous for our friends and their relationship. Rather than being an asset, we're becoming a detriment. So let me ask you, we have a little bit more time left. I think we may need to continue this. Let me ask you from a male's perspective. Let me flip that. Have you ever been dating a woman and she has a male friend that you've been uncomfortable with?
Yes, I was gonna, as we say, flip the script, but I wanted to go back to the other topic for a moment.
Okay.
Because that female friend, if she's been there through relationship after relationship, she understands what's going on. She'll still be, that Sandra will still be a friend, even though we're no longer friends. If this relationship doesn't work out, a real friend is somebody who's going to be there, even though they're not. Like, okay, she's been outed from the squad. She's no longer within the squad, but I can always go back to her if my relationship doesn't work out.
That sounds like that sounds like a backdoor out clause.
No, it's not a backdoor out clause.
If it doesn't work out with that woman, I always got my girl Sandra I can go back to, who's my buddy.
Well, that as a real friend will understand that, will want your best intentions.
But the contention is, if it's a real friend, they're not going to act. Number 5, you listed it, the disrespect. They're not going to do that. So is that person really your friend?
Well,
if they're disrespecting you and the person that you love?
Some men will go back to that friend if their relationship didn't work out. They will go back to that Sandra, be like, hey, And I'm no longer with that girl. You know, she was tripping, but we still cool. And Sandra would be like,
That
yeah.
sounds like an emotional attachment that's still there that you know is there. It's almost like, I've heard about guys that have that chick that they always know. Is it any different if a man has a woman in the back of his head that he knows he can sexually always go back to, or a woman in the back of his head that he knows intellectually and emotionally he can always go back to?
Well, as a
Isn't that
friend,
still the same thing?
as a friend, if you were a friend to begin with, a real, true
There
day
would be
one
no
friend,
disrespect.
but you happen to disrespect the new female coming in, maybe because you felt threatened or jealous. If you was a friend to begin with and you made that mistake, you're still going to be friends with the guy, even though you're no longer contacting him. Say if the relationship doesn't work a year or two down the line, if you were a true friend, you will still be a friend of that person a year or two later. That's how most men think.
That's
now,
interesting.
now,
I'll tell you from a woman's perspective,
yeah.
that sounds like I still got her if this doesn't work. That won't fly with most women.
Now,
Because it's an emotional, what you're saying, what men are saying in that is I'm still emotionally attached to that woman. That means that you really haven't that man hasn't cut all ties with her.
no, all ties have been cut, but
no,
a
no, no,
friend.
no.
Because a mistake, everybody makes mistakes. People make mistakes.
This is true. But I'm saying from a woman's perspective, if emotional ties have been cut, then they're cut. It's not in the back of your head. So let me flip the script and let me go to, because we only have a couple of minutes
And that's
left.
what I was gonna get to that. Is that females who have a male friend, they can't be in contact with them no more because they got a new man in their life. So that male friend, he's still always gonna be there. Even though he's been outed out of the squad, he's no longer a girl's friend anymore because she has a new boyfriend, a new man. If that girlfriend breaks up for her man, the male friend, a year or two later, will still be her friend. Whether or not his intentions or he has a hidden motive. Because a good friend is really, really.
Even with the hidden motive, a good friend's a friend? Isn't that kind of a little bit of an oxymoron?
No, it's
How
not.
can you be a good friend if there are
Because
hidden motives?
ladies know if they had a guy who's real cool with them, but then they find a dude with somebody else who they're dating, and they tell their friend they can't speak to him no more. Most guys, they'll be like, okay, I understand, that's cool. But they will always be there. Even though you're not speaking to that guy, if something happened 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and you call that guy, he will be there for you.
Sounds like an emotional attachment, a very intimate attachment.
You may say as emotional attachment, but this is the way of the world. And good people
I don't know
who
if
you
it's
trust,
the way of everyone's world. So there are some that, and I think I'm going to wrap it up with this. We'll have to get to that other side later. But there are some that contend that men and women cannot have opposite sex friends. Not truly, because as you so duly noted, one or more of those 5 attributes show up. And they end up rearing their ugly heads. There are some that contend that if you're in a committed relationship, that you shouldn't have any male opposite sex friends, that women shouldn't have male friends, men shouldn't have female friends. If you have couples and people that you're involved with and they're friends, together, those individual friendships may or may not negatively impact the relationship. And I think it's a point that will continue to be a point of kind of discussion, and everything in between that paradigm, from people staying really close friends and them being the person that they call up at 1 a.m. when something happens, to them seeing and talking to each other occasionally, and everything in between. There are people that sit in both sides of the camp. Some people are very strong about, some people are in their marriages and their relationships. I know people that if the person's not a friend of the couple, and even if they're a friend of the couple, their primary friend in that couple is the same sex. So if it's a woman that's a friend of the couple, their primary friend and communication of that couple is the woman that's in the couple, not with the man. And they talk about having boundaries. I think you said it, protecting the relationship. against potential threats. And sometimes those threats are more domestic and more present than I think what I realized and what people even acknowledge. Sometimes there are emotional ties and bonds that almost kind of saying that supersede the romantic relationship. Because as you said, in some people's minds, that friend was there before. If the relationship falls apart, they'll go back, which really means that there is a stronger emotional bond with that friend than ever was with a romantic relationship. Because if that were the case, that bond would still be there, and wouldn't they still be together?
Well, you got to understand one thing is that trust. When you have somebody that you can trust on a friendship level, that's a very rare thing. I mean, and trust can be built over a cultivation of time and events. So when you have that built up amount of trust in a person, but then you have to cut them off because whether it was a mistake made or one of those five topics that I gave you, you had to let that friend go because of your new relationship. As somebody who you could have trusted in the past.
Right. So let me end with asking you this question. Shouldn't it be the ultimate goal of, if you're in a romantic relationship, that person that you're in, I know people go through different relationships, but shouldn't the ultimate goal be that the person you're in a relationship in becomes your best friend, and they ultimately should be that person that you trust?
Well, yes, that's technically supposed to be the ultimate goal, but your girlfriend can't, as much as she wants to, she can't be your everything, as like you can't be her everything. As you could say that emotionally, but if your girlfriend is a phlebotomist, how can she help you with automechanical problems?
Yeah, but you don't
if
have
you have
to
a female friend who's an auto mechanic. You see, but you have to let that female auto mechanic friend go because of your girlfriend, because she doesn't feel comfortable her in that relationship.
So I'm talking about a broader thing. I'm not talking about just a component of a person. I'm saying, you said trust,
Right.
not just an attribute of a person. So my question is isn't that goal supposed to be building that kind of trust with that person you're in a romantic relationship with? But how can you do that when you've got that out card in the back of your mind all the time?
Well, that's the nature of your relationship, what you're negotiating. How strong, how ironclad are you really?
Well, I want to say thank you for your perspective and insights. Ladies, as you can tell, we have some, interesting dynamics and thoughts around friends. I'm still asking a lot of probing questions. There's some things that we said tonight that I'm sure you have opinions about. I'd love to hear about them. Hit me up on Facebook at Sister Talk Real Talk. Tweet me at Sister Talk for Real, or leave comments on the podcast. I'd love to hear your feedback. Can men and women be friends when they're in a committed relationship with opposite sex people? And I will have our insight, our male insight. Again, we'll have a part 2 of the show where we continue the conversation about Let's Talk Friends. Thanks for joining me today. I'm so glad that you did. And until next time, keep it real. Thank you for listening to Sister Talk Real Talk. I hope that today's show has informed, enlightened, encouraged, or challenged you. We're always on doing this thing called life with you throughout the week. You can catch us on Facebook and on Instagram at Sister Talk Real Talk, and on Twitter at Sister Talk for Real. That's Sister Talk, the number 4, Real. Let's continue the conversation throughout the week. You can catch all of our shows on our blog at sistertalkrealtalk.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time. Until then, keep it real.